Hello, everyone. My name is Megan Bickley, and I'm one of the presenters of the workshop today, alongside Ivan and our guest speakers, Anagha and Priyasha. So to begin, we'd like to start with a quick icebreaker. So if you could share your name, age, where you're from, and one interesting thing or your favorite thing about your hometown in the chat. So for an example, my name is Megan, I'm 16, I'm from Taipei, Taiwan, and my favorite thing about my hometown is that you can go pretty much anywhere on the MRT here, and it's super convenient, everything's super safe, and it's just a really great place to live.
Hi, my name is Ivan. I'm the other presenter today. I am 15 years old and I'm speaking to you from Taipei, Taiwan. One interesting thing about Taipei or Taiwan in general is that we have a lot of convenience stores. You can find one within a 5-minute walk, wherever you are. And I'm looking at the chat, and there are people from India, Qatar, UAE, Taiwan, Mexico, Zimbabwe, Ghana, Ecuador, Brazil, Bahrain. Okay, now I will now be talking about the agenda for our session today. First, we will be understanding the topic. Next, we will have our 2 guest speakers, and then we'll have a group discussion followed by an interactive activity.
So for an introduction, we'd like to ask a warm-up question. So our questions are, what does the word activism mean to you, and who comes to mind when you think of an activist? If you'd like to share, please use the raise hand function and we'll call on you. Or if you'd like to share in the chat as well, that's all right. Sophia.
Hey, well, the first thing that comes to my mind when it's about activism is it's basically raising your voice for the things that you believe in.
Yeah.
Which you are committing unfairly things on. That's it.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right, in that case, let's get started. So I wanted to talk first about some examples of digital activism. So over the past month, the Black Lives Matter movement has become more widely talked about in the news once again after the killing of George Floyd by the police in the United States. And people are finding new creative ways to raise awareness on this very important issue. So as you can see here, this article talks about how people are using the platforms Tinder and TikTok, which are traditionally not activist platforms, to raise awareness on Black Lives Matter. People are creating Google Docs like the one shown in the middle with resources that people can use to take action on this very important issue. People are even drafting sample emails like this one with everything filled out, and all people need to do is put in their name and where they live, and it can go to the relevant authorities who can take action on this issue. But digital activism is not brand new. This tweet up here by Alyssa Milano launched the hashtag #MeToo movement, which was one of the most widely talked about movements of the past few years. So she started by asking people who have been sexually harassed or assaulted to reply to this tweet with "Me Too," which is an idea generated by an activist named Tarana Burke earlier. And this tweet went viral. People started sharing their experiences, and it led to many powerful figures being prosecuted for their actions and sexual misconduct. Over here, this is a photo of Michelle Obama holding a picture with this hashtag "Bring Back Our Girls." This was after the kidnapping of some schoolgirls in Nigeria, and this hashtag was widely used to raise awareness of the issue. We'll talk a little bit more about its effectiveness later on. So there's also the idea of performative activism. So most of you probably have heard of the Blackout Tuesday movement if you use social media. This is actually where our presentation title came from. So this Blackout Tuesday movement was the idea that people would post black squares on their social media feeds to raise awareness about the issue of racism around the world. But the problem is that many people use this as a way to simply show that they were activists or they cared about the issue and they didn't take the time to actually do something that would actually help resolve the issue, like sign a petition. You can see here there were 28 million Blackout Tuesday posts, but only 13 million signatures on the Justice for George Floyd petition on change.org. So obviously the COVID-19 pandemic has had an impact on the ways we practice activism because it's more difficult to organize in-person protests now because of social distancing requirements. So many activists are finding creative ways to move online. So you can see here Greta Thunberg, one of the most famous climate activists in the world, has moved her campaign online and is asking people to share pictures with their school strike for climate signs to continue spreading awareness of the issue while maintaining a safe distance. So there are issues with performative activism, but often the activist movement started online can have a real world impact. Over here, we see a picture of Harvey Weinstein, who is a very respected movie producer in Hollywood who was exposed as a sexual assaulter because of the Me Too movement, and he is here being let out of court. So you can see how the digital firestorm ignited by the Me Too movement led to his prosecution and his punishment for his actions. Over here on the bottom, we have a photo of the March for Our Lives movement, which was organized entirely by students online in response to the Parkland, Florida shootings and led to reforms in gun control. So you can see how we started it completely online, but it led to this huge physical movement. Over here on the top, this is a picture of Elijah McClain, who was killed by police last year, and his case has recently gotten a lot more media attention because of people sharing it on social media, and his petition got millions of signatures, and now his case is being reopened by investigators. So now we'd like to ask, we're curious to see if any of you have been taking creative actions online, or even it can be something as simple as resharing petition links, and see what you've been doing recently to address issues that you're passionate about. So if you'd like to share, please again, use the raise hand function and we can call on you. So to share my own example to start off, I guess, I learned on social media about a Black Lives Matter protest in my city, and I was able to go to that. So the power of social media there helped me connect with other people who are also passionate about this issue and learn how to take action. Okay, Mukudze, is that how you pronounce your name? Sorry.
Yeah, it's Mukudze. So in Zimbabwe, what we try to do is there's been a lot of injustice in private schools, especially because that's where, obviously, we're an African country, so Black people are the majority, but in private schools, Black people tend to be the minority. And so there is a lot of injustice that's faced there. So what we've done is there've been multiple Instagram pages set up called Black at, so like Black at the specific school. And it's just a platform for people to just air their grievances about what's been happening in their schools particularly. And many petitions have been signed, and there have been discussions set up with the respective schools and the people, which I think is really monumental for us.
Yeah, that is, definitely. Thank you so much for sharing.
All right, now I'll be talking a bit about internet activism, and here's a question for everyone to think about. What is internet activism? And if you'd like, you can go to the chat box and type up your own definition, but this is the definition that we have here. Internet activism is the use of electronic communication technologies, such as social media, email, and podcasts, for various forms of activism to enable faster and more effective communication by citizen movements, the delivery of particular information to large and specific audiences, as well as coordination. It's quite a big definition. However, the main part of internet activism is to try to bring your activism online. And in the next few slides, we'll start talking about what are some ways that we can be an activist online. So first, I'll be talking about passive activism. And passive activism, there are two types of passive activism. One of them that we have here is slacktivism. So it's the practice of supporting a political or social cause by means such as social media or online petitions, characterized as involving very little effort or commitment. So recently, many people have been posting petition links, Blackout Tuesday posts, and change posts on social media. However, these are not as beneficial to the cause in comparison to direct participation. Malcolm Gladwell is a New York Times journalist, and he argues that slacktivism is a lazy way of activism because it doesn't require people to put in meaningful effort. He gave an example that by liking a protest-related post on social media, people feel like they have contributed to a cause, which makes them less likely to take more costly and some would argue more effective action like joining a protest. And so the idea of slacktivism is, putting some links into your social media bio or sharing some links to your friends and family for them to sign, or just simply, sharing the information. And the video we have on the next slide will kind of go deeper into what is slacktivism. And as you watch the video, you can think about, have you been a slacktivist?
Retweeting a charity might be the most uncharitable thing you can do for them. Anthony here for D News, and you've probably seen this on a lot of social networks. People retweet or repost political or charitable posts, even when you know they're not particularly active in either. People are calling it slacktivism, literally doing the least you can for a cause. And now a new study says that somebody liking or reposting something from a charity actually makes them less likely to give to that charity. So by trying to actively spread the word and gain support online, charities could actually be doing themselves some harm. In a series of studies, researchers asked people to either join a Facebook group, accept a pin, or sign a petition for a charitable organization. Then they were asked if they wanted to donate or volunteer. The more public the initial showing of support was, the less likely those people were to give their money or time. People who confidentially signed a petition were the most likely to donate, while the people who joined the Facebook group were the least likely to pitch in. Why does that happen? Oh, the usual. We're biologically wired to want to look good to others. People seeing you as someone who supports a cause is almost exactly the same to your brain as supporting that cause. It seems selfish, but it's not as simple as it sounds. See, there's this thing called symbolic self-completion, which sounds dirty, but isn't. Your brain shapes your sense of identity through both talk and actions. When you announce a plan to someone, whether it's to give to charity or write a book or eat healthier, you're telling them the sort of person you want to be. And if they acknowledge it, maybe they thumbs up your post or they comment back, they are telling you they see you as that person. It's not the same as doing these things, of course, but it's similar enough that your brain says, cool, according to everybody, I am a charitable, healthy novelist. Mission accomplished. And then it just moves on to other unsolved, more pressing stuff. So what does that mean for charities trying to get the word out? More private, one-on-one campaigns might do better. Old-fashioned street canvassing or sending individual emails. And if you've got a hard, long-term goal, symbolic self-completion doesn't mean you have to go it alone. It just means that when you're searching for support, you have to be careful about how you solicit it. It's better to tell a friend, I'm going to write a novel this month, check in on me and make sure I write 1,600 words a day, than it is to say something like, man, I've got my idea and I'm gonna write this book and it's gonna be awesome. This doesn't have anything to do with me being about 7,500 words behind on National Novel Writing Month, by the way. It's just a random thing I've been thinking about. Are you an unknowing slacktivist or prone at all to symbolic self-completion? Come clean down below. Just say
All right, so that kind of gives us an idea of slacktivism, but now we'll need to move on to another type of passive activism, which is collectivism. And it's the practice of supporting a political or social cause via the internet by means such as social media or online petitions, typically characterized as involving little effort or commitment. Now, if you'll think about it, slacktivism and collectivism, it sounds kind of similar, but they're a little different. So if we put it this way, slacktivists are the people who kind of send out these petition links, and collectivists are the people who click on or sign these petitions. And however, these two actions made by slacktivists and collectivists show little or no effort in contribution to the cause. And you can see on this little image here, it says, one more status liked, one more problem solved. But have you really solved anything? Not really. Here's a question that we want to ask everyone. And the question is, how can we turn slacktivism into activism? This is an open discussion for anyone to use the raise hand button and to kind of give out their opinion. So what are some ways that we can be more active in our activism? So Lessa from Qatar.
Hi, so correct me if I'm wrong, but for me, I think activism, especially on matters that you don't know. So for me, like it'd be socioeconomic disparities or like racial issues and things like that. I'd say first thing you'd have to do is you have to educate yourself, and then you have to, well, there's this whole big drive on social media right now where you support Black stores, Black owned companies, and like, and I think that when we put, it's not just like where we have to put our pocket where our mouth is, in that kind of term. And there's this whole, I mean, from my perspective, I'm a student, I don't have much money, I can't donate. But what I'd do was I'd help out with certain NGOs or things like that. So if they need some kind of like designing or like anything I can do with my skills to help, which isn't like monetary. So I'm not gonna like cost them to I won't ask them to pay for me to make a poster or something like that, but I'll do it so that it reduces their workload or something of the sort, because uh, it's very restricted when you don't have that kind of money to donate. So you just use the other skills and the non-tangible resources that you have to help and support a cause, from my perspective.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely correct. I really like the way how you described each type of action. And I think that, I know there are still some more people who would like to share, but we kind of need to move on now. You can still leave more of your kind of your answers in the chat box, and you can share it with the entire group then. The next slide, we'll be talking about active activism, which is what you should try to do. And we have a few ways for you to be an active activist.
So the first thing we're going to talk about is called hashtag activism. So hashtag movements like Ferguson, Umbrella Revolution, and you might remember the Ice Bucket Challenge, their main function is to raise awareness on an issue. So you can see there's millions, hundreds of thousands of mentions on these issues, which makes more people think about them and maybe perhaps consider supporting the movement or donating to them or taking other actions. But in the end, you have to consider if it's the most productive form of activism, because like I mentioned earlier, hashtag Bring It Back Our Girls, 6 months after that hashtag was trending, 200 of the girls who were kidnapped had not been returned home. So sometimes it's more about raising awareness than actually resolving the issue. So it's important to be careful with this.
The next one is online petitions. And as you can see on our graphic organizer to the left, there are 4 different types of petitions, but we're focusing on internet petitions for the workshop today. And it says it's usually effective in raising awareness for an issue. So why is that? Well, petitions help organizers see the amount of people supporting a cause because of the number of signatures that a petition needs. And people who sign petitions are more likely to engage more in activism in ways such as funding or educating themselves and others. And petitions that meet the threshold will have their petitions viewed by the government. And with a successful campaign, it will alert the government of the gravity or severity of the situation. However, we wrote, but be careful there, because oftentimes people only sign the petition to feel good about themselves. It's like the idea of, I've done something good to support the cause. And the risk to this action is that people do not know what they are signing, which goes back to the idea of slacktivism and clicktivism, where you're just clicking and signing petitions.
So the next thing is social media activism. So recently people have been coming up with creative ways to promote issues that they're passionate about on social media, whether this is designing infographics on issues like defunding the police to explain to people what it really means, or creating posts that clearly show how to donate to relevant organizations and what their main goal is. So this is social media activism. If it's not performative, it can be very useful because it educates people, it shows them where to go, and people do spend a lot of time on social media. So this allows them to think about issues that are important while they're on their daily social media feeds.
And like Lessa said from Qatar, one great way to be an active activist is to educate yourself and others. And this is a great thing that we as students can do. And we can do this at home as well, even during the coronavirus period. And one way to do this in light of the BLM movement is to read books and news articles on racism and injustice. And if reading is not your thing, you can always choose to watch a movie or Netflix as well. On the right side, a snapshot of an Instagram story from Black Lives Matter Taipei provides a slideshow that can also be shared with friends and family to better educate yourself and others on the issue. Now, there's a question in the chat box that says, won't the online activism that you described will always inevitably turn into slacktivism? So I think that's a very good question. But if you think about educating yourself and others, and this slideshow that you see here, this isn't really slacktivism or clicktivism. Although you're going on social media and you're clicking around pages, you're actually learning about the situation, and it's kind of like healthy activism. You're actually taking in information and you're thinking about the situation and thinking about ways that you can help and support the issue. Next, I would like to introduce our guest speakers, Anagha and Priyasha, who are the founders of Inside Out. Anagha and Priyasha are twin sisters who are rising seniors at the International School, Manila, Philippines. Ever since they were young, they have been writing and engaging in community service. Starting in grade 9, they decided to further progress their passion for volunteer work and giving back to the community. They created their own initiative and organization called Inside Out, with the motto, create, serve, inform. Essentially, they write and love to give back by conducting and documenting several service trips within Manila and writing poems and fiction to raise awareness. They also further their passions by joining several other organizations, and will use this presentation to talk about them and how you guys can get involved to create change. Without further ado, let's welcome Anagha and Priyasha.
Hi, everyone. So firstly, I would like to thank Ivan and Megan for their very informative presentation. So you guys have been hearing about ways to promote real change through active activism and also different types of activism. So now we'll be sharing some of our experiences with our own organization and also feature many other initiatives and how you guys can directly get involved. So to start off, our Inside Out service trip is our service club is based in the Philippines, and we have three main service partners listed here: Kids International Ministries, Katalango Filipino, and NVC Foundation. So our advice that we would give you after having initiated service trips with these service clubs and organizations for the past 3-4 years is to always reach out to organizations that you want to work with, whether it be locally or in another country if you're available, and talk to the directors and visit the facility to see what type of activities you could do that would cater best to the kids. We can move to the next slide. So one of our projects that we have done as a part of Inside Out is called Stepping Stones. So what we do here is basically document all our service trips and basically make documentaries or movies that feature our experience. So we have made around 4 documentaries so far, and our aim for this is basically to raise awareness and promote the work of wonderful organizations. So here's a 1-minute video of like a trailer of one of our stepping stones. So there's a dental mission happening today, as well as some child pediatric care, and this is where all the children and their families wait before they go and get their treatment. So over here there are more dental procedures as well as physiotherapy and massages taking place. So my sister and I basically take these opportunities or volunteer in local organizations near us, and then we film these videos and post it on our Instagram because it allows others to learn about different initiatives like this one. Next slide, please. So now we're going to be spotlighting Katalango Filipino, which is our main service partner. So Katalango Filipino is a nonprofit organization that houses special needs children based in the Philippines, and these special needs children have been neglected by their families or they're from poverty-stricken backgrounds. So when we have worked with their kids for the past 3 summers, and if we were to recommend anything for you guys, it would be to figure out what works best for these kids. So special needs children, Anagha and I have had a lot of experience working with them, so we've realized that easy art and sports activities works the best for them. So if you're really passionate about something like, for example, alleviating the conditions of special needs children and even volunteering in homes such as this, we would also encourage you guys to research what activities work best for the kids beforehand. Next slide, please. So another one of our service partners is Kids International Ministries. Just to clarify again, many of these organizations are based in the Philippines because that's where we're living. So what we have learned with working with children like this, they're around the ages of 4 to 9. And what we would recommend for you guys is to basically plan activities that would engage children like this. So this would include art activities, sports, and other games like that, icebreakers, because sometimes it can be a little bit intimidating for them to open up with volunteers like us. So to break the ice, we try to make sure that we're playing fun games to bring them out of their comfort zone, and such service trips have been really rewarding, and it's a great way to work directly with your community. Next slide, please. So one of the projects that we use when we go to such service trips is a fun book. And fun book is a very simple idea that my sister and I decided to use to engage students in our service trips. We basically take photos from the internet and compile them together in like a booklet, and we give these to the children as a little gift, and they really enjoy coloring. So here's a little promo video, and hopefully it'll give you an idea when you organize your own service trip. Next slide, please.
So now that because of the COVID-19 pandemic, many service organizations have been affected because we're now not able to actually go out to our community and work alongside our community and the kids and the people involved. So on our Instagram page, we have shifted our focus more to literary works because that's also one of our passions. We want to write prose and poetry to raise awareness and educate others, which is a great way to be active online. So the month of June was Black Lives Matter Activism Month for our Instagram page. And so on the right here is a poem written by Anagha that raised awareness on this. And we also reached out to other Black poets, Black speakers, and Black inspirational speakers and writers who would be willing to share their works with us so we could feature it on their page. And as you can see on the left here, we also have some of them take over and speak on our Instagram stories on how people could be good allies for people of color. So this is an example of online activism. We're not simply reposting or clicking away things. We're kind of trying to raise awareness in a way that's more meaningful. We are using our own voices and doing our own research to creatively raise awareness and also reaching out to others to give them a voice on our platform. Next slide, please.
So moving forward, my sister and I have decided to make Inside Out, our organization, have also a lot of more of an environmental focus. After all, we're living in the Philippines, which is a country that is very vulnerable to climate change. So what my sister and I have already been doing is teaching our service partners how to get involved with eco-breaking. So eco-breaking is a way to reduce your use of plastic and in turn use the waste to create filler bricks for infrastructure. And on our Instagram, moving forward from this month, we will be featuring different sustainable development goals to promote SDG education because that's very important. It's also a lot of what MUN Impact stands by. So this is what we're going to be doing in our Instagram moving forward. And here's a little video on how to make eco bricks if you guys already don't know how to. It's a great idea to do in your own time, and also if you do plan your own service trip. So some context for that video, we went to our service trip to Kids International Ministries, and we basically gave them snacks that were packaged in single use, and we decided to use all the waste and make this video and make it into eco bricks, which we later donated because in the Philippines there are many eco brick donation sites. So that's a really good idea for you guys to do as well. Next slide, please.
So thank you for listening to our segment on our own organization, Inside Out. So you can feel free to follow our Instagram page to stay up to date with our works and also to sign up for any publications that we might come out with in the future. So now we're going to talk about other organizations we have been part of before quarantine and starting in quarantine as well, and how you guys can get involved as well. So Anagha and I have not co-founded these, but they're still very meaningful organizations, so we would like to talk about them. Next slide.
So the first organization you guys can get involved with is called Bye Bye Plastic Bags. It is an environmental organization that was originally founded by Melati and Isabel Wichsen from Bali, Indonesia. You guys may have heard of this global organization, but back in 2017, when I went to a Global Issues Network conference, I was very honored to meet these two wonderful co-founders of this organization. And since then, the organization has become a global initiative. So it's all over in every continent. So what we would recommend you guys to do is try to find the Bye Bye Plastic Bags network in your own country and get involved with their projects. Some of their projects include global summits, beach cleanups, and they also have an online presence where you can write in their blog about environmental issues. For example, here in the Philippines, they have an online blog, and my sister and I are writers for their organization. So we have written articles such as the issue of plastic production and the issue of deforestation in the Philippines. Next slide.
In keeping with our interest with the environment, we're also part of Project Puno, which was co-founded by some of our friends. So they're also an environmental organization that seeks to raise awareness and educate others to work in tandem with nature. So some of their projects include eco brick drives with service partner school San Jose Elementary School. We also have a big Instagram presence where we post a lot of informative Instagram pub mats, and in the future we're coming out with a new project called Project Kalaman, where we're putting together a website and putting together online modules and sustainability related courses, and raising enough money to provide our service partner schools with tablets where they can view these online lessons on.
Next slide. Another organization that you guys can directly get involved with is called Genzenith. It is a youth-led news organization founded by some of our friends recently. And basically what we do is we cater to the youth who are easily intimidated by news or politics or other subjects. So we are basically like a news organization, and we write articles revolving around environment, economics, and politics. We want to empower the youth with research. So if you guys love to write about these topics or just want to use online activism in a constructive manner by using your voice, you can go ahead and check out the Genzenith website. They accept volunteer applications, and you can also apply to be a member. It is a great way to use your voice for a meaningful cause. Next slide, please. The next organization is currently based in the Philippines. It is called BakeCare. It is founded by Nick, an MUN Impact diplomat for Southeast Asia. Basically what this organization is, it aims to show gratitude to frontline workers such as security guards and hospital workers through delivering them our homemade baked goods. So this initiative is quite new and currently just based in the Philippines. However, we would be wanting to share this because it is so easy to show gratitude and do something like this in your own hometown. Currently with COVID, we really must recognize the efforts of all our essential and frontline workers. So it'd be really easy for you guys to get your friends together and bake and go ahead and deliver them to your community security guards or to doctors in a hospital near you. Next slide. So that concludes our featuring of different organizations. You can take a screenshot of this slide or make sure to follow and take some of the opportunities if you found any helpful.
Thank you, Anagha and Priyasha. If you guys have any questions for them, we unfortunately are a little low on time, but if anyone has any questions right now, we could answer one or two, I think. So just use the raise hand function. All right, in that case, we're a little bit low on time, as I said, so we're going to wrap up the workshop. We had some discussion questions here. If you still want to talk about these, we'd be happy to talk about you. We're going to share our contact information in just 1 second. We'd also like to pose a challenge for you. If you're interested, you could design a slide or a post explaining how to take action on a specific issue. And if you would like Junior Omen to share your slide on our social media channels, please send it to our email. So that's jronlinemun.outreach@gmail.com. So if you would like to wrap up by sharing your ideas in the chat, if you would like to think about any new ideas you've thought of on how to take action on issues that are important to you, please do share them in the chat. And yes, if you have any more questions, we'd love to talk to you. So these are our social media handles, as well as the social media handles for Junior Omen, which Ivan and I are co-secretaries general for, and the Inside Out Club. So we'd love to hear from you. So please do contact us if you'd like to talk more on this topic. Thank you.
Since the presentation is over, we'd just like to thank the presenters for this amazing session. It was really, really insightful. And if anybody has any questions, drop them in the chat. We are running a bit low on time since there is a plenary session at 14 UTC coming up now. So yeah, thank you all for coming, and thank you to the presenters for this. Since there are no questions, if the presenters have anything else last minute to say. Oh, I think there's one question in the chat right now. If Anurag, I'm sorry if I'm saying your name wrong, if you'd like to switch on your mic and ask your question quickly before we...
Okay. So my question is on the lines of social change. So on social media, there are a lot of people who want social change, and I've seen people humiliate and target people who commit uncivilized actions online. So they mainly focus on humiliating the person rather than educating or reforming them. So what are your thoughts on this, and how can we stop this?
That's a great question. I do think cancel culture can be very problematic because it encourages, it doesn't really focus so much on educating the person that made a mistake, but rather shaming them. And that can be an issue because the most important thing to do to actually make a change from the situation would be to actually educate the person on why what they did was wrong. So in order to change that, I think if you ever find yourself in this kind of situation where you see someone who's made a really bad mistake and has said something or done something very ignorant, I think the best thing to do would be to first reach out to them and be like, hey, what you did was really wrong because of this, this, and this. And if they're still not apologetic for their actions, or their actions are hurting someone else, then you should bring it to the relevant authority or someone who can handle the situation, and just make sure in everything that your primary focus is on educating the person on why what they did was wrong, because that's going to be the most productive way to address it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Megan, for answering that question. We're just going to have a picture. The presenters are going to take a photo. So if any of the delegates want to turn their cameras on for a quick picture, that would be awesome.
Okay, I'll count to 3. 3, 2, 1. All right, thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone, for coming. You're free to go. Thank you for coming to this session, and thank you again to the presenters for an awesome session.
Thank you.
Thank you.